Hello there, my name's Jim and I'm going to be doing a presentation today talking about using a video game to crowdsource improved treatments for prostate cancer patients. And my company is Lovebird Lab right here, and I'm going to be talking about the game, which is up here. And I think without further ado, I'll just get right into it. Okay, so the name of the game is Cancer Clinics Evo. And it is a video game. Why would somebody do a video game about prostate cancer? Well, first of all, it's pretty common among men. Second most common cancer, in fact, worldwide. If it's detected and treated early before it spreads, it's usually quite curable. But unfortunately, quite often, it's not caught early, in which case it's usually fatal despite the best efforts of doctors. Now, how will the game help? Well, we are crowdsourcing and also crowdfunding improvements in real-world prostate cancer patient treatments. As a video game, that's pretty unusual. The reason why I got started looking at this was the summer of 2021. I found online an interesting little game called Cancer Crusade. It has a rather wonderful back-end model of cancer tumor growth and spread and how various kinds of drug treatments, dosages, and pauses in treatment affect the growth or shrinkage of tumors. Unfortunately, as a video game, it totally sucked. It was very badly designed, and so it got almost no traction whatsoever out there, and almost nobody played it. I started talking with the owners, developers of the game, Center of Excellence for Evolutionary Medicine. They're at the Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa, Florida. And one thing led to another, and now we're collaborating to develop a video game, Cancer Clinics Evo. The team is Lovebird Lab. I'm here in the San Francisco Bay Area. We're a small indie for-profit game dev studio. And I'm the owner or founder of it. I used to work years ago at Maxis in the early days of SimCity and SimEarth. Spent time at Santa Fe Institute thinking the deep thoughts about genetic algorithms and fitness testing and nonlinear dynamics and chaos theory and yada yada and so on. I also went on to World Health Organization and did some work on simulation video games, one specifically focused on schistosomiasis control using like a SimCity or SimSchisto type game format. The other part of the team here is the Center of Excellence for Evolutionary Medicine and also the Anderson Lab, working together at the Moffitt Cancer Center. Center of Excellence focuses on personalized cancer therapies, but they also pull into that predictive mathematical models, patient data, and evolutionary principles to try to develop a personalized cancer therapy set for a patient that goes beyond the usual criteria and treatment approaches. Anderson Lab is really focused on building mathematical and computational models of cancer growth and development in patients. How does cancer spread in patients? What kind of parameters affect that, and so on. And in fact, the models that have been developed by the Center of Excellence and Anderson Lab are so good that at Moffitt Cancer Center, they're commonly used in the treatment discussions by the oncologists there about what kind of treatments should they give. The model helps guide that treatment, and it's been doing it very successfully for some years now. And in fact, the model keeps getting better and better as, of course, more data is gathered. The kind of game we're doing is going to be looking at the usual therapies, but also some novel therapies as well. The current paradigm for cancer treatment is you hit it with the strongest possible dose, what's called maximum tolerated dose. Any more dose than that and it kills you. So that's what they mean by maximum. And generally what happens is if you kind of look up here at the top graphics, you'll see a fairly heterogeneous a set of cancer cells of many different types, because cancer cells are very genetically diverse. Their population is very genetically diverse, and some go faster, some are sensitive to drugs and not others, and so on. So a lot of factors involved. Typically, the maximum tolerable dose targets certain cells in the cancer population in the body, eliminates those, but then it selects for cells that resist that. And eventually what happens is you get a shrinkage of tumors, and then they come roaring back because now you have cells that are resistant. Then you hit the tumor with another drug, maximum tolerable dose, which, by the way, is causing the person's hair to fall out, 24/7, vomiting. The quality of life is like in the toilet. It's so terrible. In fact, basically leaning over the toilet, to be literal. Eventually the tumor comes roaring back, and they do that for a few cycles, and finally the patient dies. One of the treatments that's going to be clinically trialed in our game is a new evolutionary therapy paradigm called adaptive therapy, where instead of trying to kill all the tumor, you try to control it. So if you look at the image down here, you'll see, a cancer tumor of some size with a heterogeneous population. What happens is that you hit it with what's called the maximum effective dose, which is far, far lower than the MTT dose. So usually the patient isn't losing hair, isn't vomiting, quality of life stays good. And so the tumor shrinks, but you don't end up with just resistant cells. And when you stop the treatment, the tumor comes back. But as it turns out, cells that are sensitive to drug treatment tend to grow faster, be more fit in population, and crowd out the ones that are resistant. Because being resistant has a metabolic cost. It means you have to consume more nutrients, there's more energy, you grow slower. So if you're able to have this kind of cycle of shrinkage and then growth and shrinkage and growth, you can create essentially a pattern where you haven't killed all the tumors, but now you've got them under control. Here's an example of a cancer trial that was done using maximum tolerable dose. And the X means that the tumors started growing metastatically out of control, and all the X patients died as of the months below here. This is, I must have skipped it. Okay. This is an example of adaptive cancer therapy where you're essentially in the red giving a person a maximum effective dose, a lower dose. Then the black means you're pausing for a period of time, then back to giving the dose again. What you're trying to do is keep the tumor population within a certain range of maximum and minimum, and set it up as a cycle. In other words, here your goal is to control the disease and turn it from a fatal disease into just a chronic disease. Okay, one that's survivable and in most cases has good quality of life. And as you can see, over the time of this trial, which was happening at the same time as the other one, where pretty much everybody died, there was only one person whose cancer went out of control. And I know quite a few years later, all of these people who in here, cancer's under control, still have it under control. So essentially the cancer treatment modeling that will be included in the game integrate cancer math models. We'll be pulling in patient data that's exactly like the data of real patients, so that our NPC patients will be as identical as possible to real patients. And of course, evolutionary principles will be being applied, looking at changes in the tumor population, the genetics of it, the population distribution of different tumor cell types, and so on, in order to try to control the disease. The Center of Excellence in Anderson Lab have developed a really powerful back-end model, and that's going to be driving the game dynamics of the clinics that will be in the little game towns that we have. And the clinicians in the clinic, people playing oncologist or radiologist and nurse and such, will be using the same treatments and the same drugs and so on as people in real oncology clinics. Also, the data from the treatments that are going on in the game will be exported to the research centers, the Anderson Lab and Center of Excellence in Florida, to help improve real cancer patient treatment. So this is where crowdsourcing real cancer patient treatments really comes into play. Some of the unusual features of our game, well, we're going to have what's called an institutional review board, and this is required if you're doing anything related to patient data or clinical trials and so on. And we're doing both. I've already talked to a number of people who are cancer patients, prostate cancer patients, who want to play the game and also want to configure their NPC patients that they're working to treat with the exact same disease parameters as their own disease. They're, of course, trying to figure out treatments that might control their own disease. And also we'll be doing clinical trials trying various treatments using patient data. This requires an institutional review board which looks at what we're doing, makes sure we're operating with the proper protocols, we're operating ethically, we're treating patient data properly with the proper security and so on. Now, we also have real cancer patients, as I said, playing the game. And again, they're going to be trying to cure their own disease in many cases. That's a little unusual. And then finally, we've had a number of people in prostate cancer support groups say that their cancer is pretty advanced. They'd love to play the game, but they're pretty sure that they're going to die while they're playing. So, because this game is so much relationship-based, it's multiplayer and people get to know each other really well, when one of those people dies, our video game is going to have an in-game funeral for players who actually died in the real world, and they'll be memorialized in a cemetery in the game towns. Now, data security is a big piece of what we're trying to do, and we could sure use some advice and help on that, because we are involving real cancer patients and their data. That has to be protected. And also, the patients themselves are going to be updating the NPCs and such with real patient data. And we're concerned about hackers breaking in, getting personal information, getting the patient data, and so on. So this is an issue that we need to address as a video game that's embedding real patient data and clinical trial data in a video game. The game itself, as a game, well, it's a multiplayer RPG medical simulation game. Multiplayer, well, a lot of people play together online at the same time. That's pretty straightforward. RPG is a role-playing game. And if you think about role-playing games that you've heard of, it could be something like World of Warcraft. It could be, Animal Crossing. It could be any number of different types of games. And of course, ours is a medical simulation where cancer clinics diagnose and treat patients. So those are the let's say, three key aspects of the game we're doing. And as far as an emotional experience and people playing and getting to know each other, it's going to have a lot of friendship, hope, healing, and loss. Because people you're playing with, some of them have cancer, they're going to die. And so, you'll be doing whatever you can to improve cancer treatment, control cancer, but not everybody's going to make it to the other side. Saving the lives of your cancer patient friends and neighbors in the game will depend on how well you master the clinic, the oncology, leveling up and you using the scanners and the blood marker tests and all that sort of thing. It'll be as realistic as possible. If your treatments are effective, well, your patients will live longer, and your clinic will become famous in other towns around the world, because there'll be many towns in the game with their own clinics. Some will do good works, others won't. And naturally, the people playing cancer patients and also NPCs will tend to gravitate toward the clinics that have a better reputation. Now, in terms of what are some of the things players do in the game, well, certainly you're running a cancer clinic, treating patients, and you're doing clinical trials, which again are being observed by our Institutional Review Board, or IRB, and a lot of the data from those trials are being exported to help improve real cancer patient treatments. And in the game, we're helping the men of our town survive this disease. Also, there's a pharmacy in town, and this is where some of the fantasy element kind of comes in. This pharmacy will supply the drugs required by the clinic to do various kinds of treatments, and if there's a shortage of the drug, the ingredients will have to be searched for and found within the town or the countryside and crafted. Also, it's a very social game with people meeting and talking with each other just to hang out together and enjoy life and such. So there's a local cafe where people get together with audio chat and talk about things, play games, also talk about leveling up their skills, finding resources for the clinic and such. and developing relationships with players a lot. This is very, very much of a relationship game in that sense. This isn't a combat game. Yes, there are things you're fighting, but you're basically fighting a disease, not each other. And then there's a factory to manage, which would also be crafting things used in the clinic if you can't get them through the marketplace. And so this is, again, a bit of a fantasy element where you're looking for materials and such you can use to craft graft an MRI and such for the clinic. Then the town itself, this really isn't an accurate representation of the town. We've now advanced to the point where, in fact, we're releasing a minimum viable game that's going to be start play testing in August, and the graphics look a lot different than this, but actually I think a lot better. But nonetheless, in the town, there's many places where you can socialize, become friends or enemies with people, share info, plan things, organize projects, manage the clinic. You can hold funerals for real players that died. You'll be doing treatments and clinical trials, crafting equipment and drugs. There's a fantasy element. We have treasures around town and in the countryside that add some fun and resources and such. Play different roles of many kinds, whether it's running the cafe or the factory or the pharmacy or a role in the clinic. There'll be lots of different things that people can play at in case you don't happen to be focused on being an oncologist. Maybe you just want to run the cafe, hang out with people, talk to people, be supportive. Maybe you want to do the hardware store or the factory and focus on those things. So it allows cancer patients, their friends and family and such to play and support each other with a lot of different kinds of roles that, of course, can be leveled up. You'll be able to explore the town, the countryside, and the other towns in the world. And there is some competition. Clinics will compete for finite resources as far as equipment, supplies, money, patients, drugs, clinic staff, and even players. So there is that competitive aspect to the game. As far as the patient experience would be, somebody playing it or being a doctor, this is an example of a fairly nice game that isn't our game. I'm trying to remember the medicine. I don't remember, but it does give a good example of the kind of a very personal and colorful and inviting kind of atmosphere where people are in the space, talking to each other, sharing ideas, stories, how they're doing that day, and then also going into treatment rooms and such. So this game is already becoming very rich visually with a lot of interactions between players stressed. And if you know games at all, in many ways it would be quite accurate to say we're doing Stardew Valley with a cancer clinic in it. And in fact, this kind of RPG map is very, very close to the kind of thing we're currently doing and that will be visible in our minimum viable game beginning playtesting with the public in August. As far as how we're funded, well, we're very lucky. Instead of just being an entertainment product, we have a cause. I mean, how many video games can say, hey, come and have a lot of fun, and by the way, as a side effect of playing, help cure cancer. So we're already being offered contributions from playtesters and fan community, and we haven't even really gotten started. Naturally, people who are cancer patients and their families would like to contribute. We're setting up a Patreon for regular contributions. We have some NGOs that want to help us, and we think we'll get some good sponsorship from businesses. And we're considering Kickstarter. But frankly, we're pretty frugal. We've been pretty efficient at doing our programming and such for the minimum viable game and such. And we don't think we're going to need to do a Kickstarter, and we certainly don't need any investment. But if you feel like supporting something like this, playtesting and such, well, starting in August, you can playtest the game. And there'll be my email address where you can contact us if you'd like to do so. If you want to help us make the game secure from hacking, boy, we'd love to talk to you. I think I'm talking to the right crowd for that. And of course, you'll have an opportunity to donate to our Patreon also, which is, I think, going to be the primary way that we continue to fund our development. And then spread the word. Okay. And finally, you will be able to go to a page where you can sign up for our email newsletter. You can donate, and you can also playtest. This will be available beginning of August, And if you look at the link below, basically subscribepage.com/ccvgame. Again, subscribepage.com/ccvgame. It'll take you to this, and you can put in your email, and next thing you know, you become a part of the whole playtester and support community for Cancer Clinics Evo. And that's it for the presentation part. I've got to say that I love what I'm doing. I jump out of bed in the morning and like really love it. My friends wonder where I've gone. And this particular presentation was facilitated and at the invitation of Nina Ali at Buy Hiking Village, which is a great group, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of people talking about them as well. So on that note, I look forward to some Q&A. I look forward to joining our community, and I'll see you later.